As a fragrance reviewer, I own quite a few fragrances. Not as many as other fragrance reviewers. I've seen people own a tremendous amount of fragrances to the point where I feel it's unnecessary. So with that, there's actually some fragrances that I don't own, either because I just haven't ever got around to buying them, the moment has never sort of sprung on me, or I just haven't had the capital to justify doing that, and I've needed to eat that week. But there are some fragrances that I don't own, think are amazing, think are 10 out of 10 fragrances, and I still recommend them to you. So I'm going to give you the chance to own them before I do. Let's begin. First one is from AMOUAGE. It is Reflection Man. I have blasphemied Fragrant Jesus. I own a DIOR clone. Look, I was in film school at the time. I was a student. I didn't have any money, so I got Desert Reflection by DIOR. And I've still got half of that, and I went out clubbing a lot wearing that. But it's not as good as Reflection Man. Obviously, if you have the funds and you have the ability, buy the actual fragrance. Unless it's Creed, their prices are now taking the royal piss. But if it's not Creed or a brand that is egregiously overpricing their fragrances, and that list is rising week by week, then you should always try to buy the actual fragrance. I've always loved Reflection Man. That love stems from Hero Miguel. He was one of the very first original fragrance reviewers. He left the community because he got a job, or I think that was the story. He got a job. He didn't want to be online anymore. He was the original hype man. He was amazing. Most of my fragrance choices, most of my life with fragrance has been inspired by him. He hyped Reflection Man. I think Reflection Man was it was his #1 most complimented, and this was a time before most complimented videos were oversaturated and ridiculous, and everybody was doing them almost once a day. You know, most complimented videos were rare, and so it meant more, it meant something. And when Reflection Man was #1, I was like, oh god, you know, I went stir crazy. I was like, I gotta have it, and I never did actually. And then I heard that it got reformulated. That put me off. But about 2 or 3 years ago, I went to York to see Chris, and Pete was there, and I put on the reformulated Reflection Man, and both of them said, whoa, that is just exploding off of you. And Peter even said, this is fragrance for you. He said, I was really critical of the reformulation of Reflection Man, but it smells really good on you. So there's hopefully still hope for me. And that would be, definitely one of the fragrances that I would definitely want to get. #2 is Bulgari's Man in Black. I own 3 Bulgari Mans. I own Extreme, Wood Neroli. I even have Glacial Essence for some reason. But I just never, whenever I go for Man in Black, I'm like, yeah, but I've got this fragrance, I've got that fragrance, I've got Spice Bomb Extreme, do I really need it? So it's one of those things where I'm like, I've already kind of got fragrances that are like that, so I don't necessarily need Man in Black. But Man in Black is fantastic, and maybe when I run out of Spice Bomb Extreme, I'll transition to Man in Black. I think that's a really important lesson to know as well. If you have a fragrance, be aware of fragrant redundancies in your own subjective opinion. You know, one person could look at Spice Bomb Extreme and look at Bulgari Man in Black and go, what are you talking about? They're 2 completely different fragrances for different situations. And you could argue that Man in Black is more formal. It's more subtle in a way compared to Spice Bomb Extreme, which is sort of like throwing a gingerbread house at you, and there are those differences. But for me personally, on a subjective level, they're not different enough to justify owning both. So that's my decision, and it's a good decision because it will, in the long term, hopefully save me some money. But Man in Black is really great, and it's got that solid Bulgari quality, which of course is what they're known for, and that's in general just a superb line of fragrances. And yeah, I do want to get it. I will probably get that over Black Cologne, but Man in Black is this very nuanced, spicy fragrance, that spicy, slightly incensey fragrance that's quite casual in one way, but also can be worn quite formally into black tie events and things like that. And it's very, very masculine. It's quite mature, It's in the same league as, more in the way of ombre leather, you know, but I would happily own ombre leather and Man in Black. The next two are from the house of XERJOFF. I will go one by one. The first one is Kobe. When I first smelled Kobe, it was quite the revelation. Quite an incredible just blast of really intense natural citruses. Really like the highest quality of natural citruses, and thought that that was amazing. But it was a bit too blunt for me. It was sort of too overwhelming, and I think I was only 23 or 24 when I smelt Kobe for the first time, and I was like, I don't think I'm ready for that yet. I'll take Colonia Intensa for now and play it safe. But I've always loved citrus notes of, you know, in general. I love oranges, I love lemons, I love, you know, citruses to eat, citruses to smell. They're really invigorating smells that remind you of summer and of spring, and they're just lovely, you know. I like orange juice, you know, everything. But it was really too much, and the price of XERJOFFs are very high. They are worth it though. They are one of those rarities where I go, yeah, fair enough. Mostly because they almost have patents in a way. Their process is so unique, and the quality that comes out of XERJOFF fragrances is so real and so natural. They can claim to be a premium product. Easily they can claim to be a premium product. But then you get, you know, Creed, you get other brands that claim to be a premium product, but they're not at the level, and in a way XERJOFF mostly is like the litmus test with fragrances. If a fragrance is as good or as high as quality as some of the XERJOFFs, then and only then can you know, charge over 200 quid or over $400-500. And with that is, you know, you have the citruses, you have the spring, summer, you go to the autumn, and of course NAXOS. NAXOS is legendary, it's amazing, but I own 1 Million Privé and I own Pure Havane. Obviously they're nowhere near the same quality. NAXOS is this honey tobacco, the highest level that it can be. I would rather recommend you that and say, look, don't buy 1 Million Privé, don't buy Pure Havane, not that you can, it's discontinued. Don't buy anything under the quality of NAXOS and just go for NAXOS. I'd rather you invest in NAXOS, invest in the XERJOFFs, rather than having multiple different, you know, honey, cheap, shitty tobacco fragrances, because that's the real deal. But again, I just feel hesitant to have NAXOS because, in truth, I know that if I had NAXOS, I'd never wear Pure Havane, I'd never wear 1 Million Privé, and those fragrances would sort of rot, and they would be, you know, in cobwebs and stuff like that. I'd rather just play those two fragrances out, use them up, and then upgrade myself to NAXOS. But NAXOS is insanity. It's amazing, compliment getting, highest quality, you know, a fragrance lover's dream. On that same note of having a fragrance that's kind of a bit too close, Guerlain's TONKA Imperiale is amazing, stunning. It really is that next level, and it really is something that, for me as a fragrance lover and who really thinks this is an art form, genuinely believes that. You smell TONKA Imperiale and you're like, look, this is the argument. Anybody who says that this is not an art form, this right here is the argument. I would take that. I would take TONKA Imperiale by Guerlain into a court of law, you know, as a defendant of anybody claiming that fragrance is not an art form. But I own Fève Délicieuse, and you know, there's also this pressure that you feel as though TONKA Imperiale and most of these fragrances, most of these niche fragrances, oh, they're going to get discontinued, and that just ups the pressure. But I just try and not have that pressure in my mind, and you shouldn't have that pressure in your mind either. You should never feel as though you're being manipulated by brands, or like you're being, or reviewers, like you're missing out. Look, if they go and you never bought them, just leave it. You've got to have that mentality because, you know, discontinuation is so prevalent now. If you, for one reason, did not buy that fragrance and then it got discontinued and you didn't get it, you've got to leave it there. You've got to sort of bury the hatchet right then and there. And Tonka Imperiale is that thing. I'm nearly done with Federal Issues. I've probably got this year and next year until I run out. And I will probably transition over to Tonka Imperiale. But man, that is something else. With the it really is truly amazing. The next one is Spiritueuse Double Vanille by that same line. That's even better than Tonka Imperiale. Spiritueuse Double Vanille is it's probably one of the closest on this list where I am going to just buy that, because I have got Eau de Méchants and I've got other fragrances that are vanilla. You know, I've got tons of vanilla fragrances, but I smelled that last year and I was like, God, that is so good. That's so good. That really is. And every year around this time, you know, as it's getting colder and colder, I'm like, I got to get Double Vanille. I got to get Double Vanille. I got to get it. And then for some reason I just don't. Usually because I have got a lot of vanilla fragrances and I sort of forget about it. I'm like, I don't need it. But that's so special and so good and so unique that, yeah, I'm probably going to have to get that as well. Next one is from Imaginary Authors, and it's Yesterday's Haze. The only reason why I don't have it is because I only found out about it recently with a sample. Yesterday's Haze, it's got fig, and fig is an underutilized note in fragrance, but when it is utilized and it's done really well, it's very beautiful and quite something unique to add to your summer. I used to own Fico de Amalfi by Acqua di Parma. You know, ran through that very easily because it's such a pleasant fragrance, and that combination of orange and lemon and fig, there's just something in there that really is like a Mediterranean holiday. I think it's because a lot of the hotels in the Mediterranean in the 90s and in the early 2000s, maybe still today, they would use fig air fresheners a lot. And so whenever my family went on holiday and we went to Italy, or there's this lovely place called Jesolo, it's near Venice in Italy. It's like this seaside town. It's basically Brighton. It's like Italy's version of Brighton is Jesolo or Jeslo. And whenever I smell fig and citrus, I'm immediately brought to that hotel and that great seaside town. But Yesterday's Haze is just that combination of citrus and fig done to perfection, done immaculately, really, really good. And so yeah, I probably will get that next summer, and I would highly recommend it to all of you. You know, if you're tired of just, you know, lemon, orange, marine, aldehydes, I get it, right? You get it. I'd go for I'd check out Yesterday's Haze by Imaginary Authors. You have to pay a premium, but it is that good. Also, speaking of summer, spring-summer, Platinum Egoist by Chanel. Always liked it. Always had time for it. You know, it's a fragrance that is dated. It's a fragrance that is not of this time anymore. It's more 70s, even going towards 60s, but it is very charming, very debonair, gentlemanly in a classic way. And when you smell it, if you've never smelled Platinum Egoist, you'll smell it and you'll go, oh, it's that type of fragrance. You've smelt it before. You've smelt many different iterations of it. But Platinum Egoist is arguably the best. And that is, you know, citrus and neroli fougere, your dad's fragrance, your granddad's fragrance. You know, it's great. It's just great. Love it. Swapping from Chanel to Dior Sauvage Parfum. Similar kind of thing, but done to an incredible way. Yeah. Dior Sauvage Parfum is absolutely brilliant. It's so rich and vibrant, and you've got that neroli and all that kind of thing, which is typical of that. But it's just got so much more vavavoom and spice and wood and a bit of musk, and it's rough around the edges and quite brutal in some ways. And I'd never really smelt that done so well. Right, you've got the neroli, the citrus, which can be cutting in itself, but it also has that freshness. but then there's just this really spicy, sexy, musky undertone that's kind of like throwing gasoline onto this fiery neroli, and it's an explosion of the senses and just fabulous, and I love that. And finally, Oud Wood by Tom Ford. The only reason why I don't own it is because I used to own 50ml of it, but I got through that in a year. Got through it in a year. And that's why I'm nervous to get it again, because I'm like, oh my god, I'm going to have to buy it a third time and everything. Oud Wood just absolutely captured me. And I've also got Versace Oud Noir. I'd rather just wear that and then go back to Oud Wood. But Oud Wood is one of the best fragrances I've ever smelt, and probably easily in my top 3 greatest fragrances of all time. Just so good. Even the newer version, the reformulated version, people are like, oh, you know, it's dead, it's dead. No, it's not dead, it's fine, it's great. It's fantastic. It's just a marvel of fragrance craftsmanship. Not too dark, not too danky. Just a wonderful, masculine, woody oud with a bit of bitterness and a bit of bite, and on the skin it is just sex. It's amazing. You know, sex. Yeah, it's phenomenal. So there you have it. Those are 10 fragrances that I don't actually own right now, but I would still highly recommend, and I will probably eventually get them. But who knows? You might own them before me. Anyway, this is a perfect time to talk about the PayPal, isn't it? Yes, if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and I do have the PayPal info at thefragranceexpress.co.uk. If you want to give more than just a like and a view, you can, of course, donate. And most of that will be going towards the Aventus video and future productions. Your PayPal donations made possible the hour video, the 5 fragrances. I talk about 5 fragrances in 1 hour. That was down to all of you who have submitted and given to the PayPal. Thank you so much. You've contributed to this channel in such a brilliant and unique way. Thank you so much. Anyway, I'm the Fragrance Express. I will see you tomorrow. Thanks so much. Bye.